The Gospel of Gold by G.S. Lewis. Let us talk business. Something's wrong here, thought Gold in a small corner of his mind. Archer's too clear-headed, but I can't stop now. As he wavered indecisively, a small, subconscious impulse urged him forward, ever closer to Apollo. He was hardly aware of it, let alone its origin, but he heeded its silent call. Apollo regarded him curiously as he knelt to see eye to eye. "Here's the deal," Gold said quietly, even as the thought weaved itself in his mind. "You don't value the time you've got left, or you'd be using it to repent. I'm going to give you a new appreciation for your time, and afterward, the opportunity to use it better. But in return, I want the truth. I want to know why you do the things you do." Apollo gave him a skeptical glare. "And how exactly will you accomplish all that? If I lie, how will you know?" "Because this will happen." Gold reached out and touched the rocket commander's head. The result was immediate. Apollo's eyes rolled up into his head, and every muscle of his body tensed at once, making him leap and strain against his bonds. His face twisted into a mask of absolute dread and agony, but though his mouth stretched wider than Gold would have thought possible, no scream issued forth. Only 3 seconds elapsed, and then Apollo's fit passed away. But as he sank back down and remastered himself, Gold observed that his outer composure was utterly gone. What was that?" Apollo gasped, teeth clenched, breathing hard through his nose. "A vision," Gold replied. "One that I received during an encounter with your rockets back in Azalea Town. I can grant healing to those I touch, but the spirit can give glimpses into reality beyond." He held Apollo's eye gravely, though not coldly. "There is a judgment coming for all doers of evil, from the least to the greatest. Perhaps you never figured that into your worldview, but if you withhold any information from me now, you'll be reminded anew. It only lasts a few seconds, because maintaining the whole memory would literally stress your body to death. But it's a necessary pain." "Necessary pain?" Apollo pulled back his teeth into what might have been intended as an ironic grin, but came off only as a grimace. "This is psychological torture. Hell, with your ability, you could become a top leader in Team Rocket. But spare me the holier-than-thou nonsense." Gold narrowed his eyes. "Some torture is deserved," he said, "but I'm not here to torture you. I want to know why you helped to twist the Johto League into running a death sport." Apollo's gaze lowered slightly, and Gold saw that he was considering his answer. Presently, he looked back up. "I take no pleasure in the abuse of animals," he said. "I've always viewed Pokémon as tools, and the object isn't to break them, but to use them for building. As to what I build, well, that's dictated by the demand of those willing to pay." The rocket leader regarded Gold with grim disapproval. "Your anger against me is misplaced. It is the crowd, not the ringmaster, who wanted this show." "So it was you," Gold pressed. "You made the Johto League like this." "Why are you prompting my confession a second time?" asked Apollo slyly. "To double-check if I lied? Are you testing the effectiveness of that little trick you played on me?" "No, I believe you." Gold watched Apollo's face for any hint of treachery. There was nothing that he could read, except the occasional flicker of pain. His hands were still mangled and doubtlessly causing him a lot of suffering, but he remained composed. On equal grounds, Gold knew he would have stood no chance against this man. "I assume that there's a camera watching me from somewhere," Apollo said, giving the ruins a slow, methodical sweep with his eyes. "I always do. I'm afraid I can't give you a thorough answer about how I, ingratiated myself with the League. Like I said, I want to live, and that means withholding some names." Gold nodded. "I never said you were solely to blame. The names can wait until another time. Right now, I'm less interested in the how than the why." "I told you why," said Apollo with a hint of impatience. "I invested in the League because I knew it would pay rich dividends." "No, I mean, why do you want money? You have money," Gold pointed out. "What does more get you?" Apollo looked at him like he was an idiot. "Power, obviously. Control. Freedom to act beyond all moral and lawful restrictions. I'm surprised I have to spell it out." "Those aren't end goals," remarked Gold. "They're conditions for achieving goals. What happens when Apollo Archer of Team Rocket has all the money, power, and control? What does he do with it?" "You're wrong if you think power and control require further motivations beyond themselves," said Apollo with conviction in his voice. "Every Pokemon trainer knows that there is a certain euphoria that comes with achieving each new level, new battle technique, new evolution. Dopamine is the natural drug, the only one worth getting addicted to. Pokemon battles are ultimately meaningless as two Stantler butting heads. What matters is feeling alive." The smile was back on his face. "What happens when I get all the power, I heard you ask? That will never be. There will always be more to strive for, more to conquer, as Team Galactic could tell you. But as long as I have milestones to reach, I will be content. Let others trouble themselves with their plans and philosophies on how the world should be run." Gold stared incredulously at him. "That's it?" he demanded. "You'd endlessly snatch up power and then delegate it out to the planners just because it feels good? Kindly stop clutching your pearls. You're making me cringe," snapped Apollo with disgust. "I am doing something that comes naturally to people and Pokemon alike, even as children. Have you never challenged someone to a race, or an arm wrestling match, or a hold-your-breath competition underwater?" The Rocket Commander looked at Gold expectantly. He nodded, and Apollo continued. "The animals compete for the same purpose, to test and exceed their limits. As individuals, they can become much stronger than us at much faster rates. But if we play to our own strengths, as social creatures with minds that can reason, teamwork and science ultimately triumph. It so happens that I am especially talented at both, and so I am Team Rocket's leader until the boss returns. My army, my power, grows by the day, and it will redouble when I perfect my evolution signal wave." Apollo looked like he might say more, but paused again, like a seasoned lecturer who had learned to expect questions. It struck Gold as an oddly considerate thing of him to do, given the circumstances. "An army that stands for nothing but you," Gold said slowly, still trying to make sense of Apollo's explanation. I can't accept that. You may view it as nothing more than an extension of your muscles, but it's so much more. You're borrowing the strength of many other people, souls with thoughts and ambitions of their own. You draw people like you, self-centered, self-serving, and united only by the reward that comes with dominating others. Has that never struck you as a potential formula for evil? There you go again with that word, said Apollo, rolling his eyes. Do you think I care about your definition of evil? How presumptuous of you. Your worldview isn't superior to mine. What? Gold reeled mentally. How can you not believe in good and evil? I believe in what's good and bad for me, Apollo stressed in the patient tone an adult uses with an especially dull child. That's why I see people for their net worth. Either they are a help to me overall, or an overall hindrance. He raised his eyebrow. You may not understand this, not being a Pokemon trainer, but when they fight, Pokemon get hurt, and healthcare is expensive. It's partially why I discontinued the Johto League sponsorship grants for Pokecenters. When a Pokemon keeps losing every battle you throw it into, eventually, you must decide if that Pokemon is worth keeping around. He looked at Gold pointedly. Had you been a promising league candidate, I might have seen you as a Team Rocket asset and offered you some very rewarding incentives for joining. As it turned out, you chose instead to attract attention to yourself, then proceed to rail against every change made by Karen. Karen? Echoed Gold, confused. I thought you said it was you. Karen's ideals were well established before I ever entered the picture. Apollo narrowed his eyes, looking irked at the interruption. She won't mind me dropping her name in that regard. However, regarding the order to kill you... He smirked slightly. Let's keep it simple. Let's put that one all on me. The Johto League's interests are tied with my own, so you became a net negative in my eyes. You're not the only one, of course, but it got to a point that ignoring you was no longer an option. Gold swallowed before speaking, feeling a chill in his stomach. This man was a casual killer, and there was no telling how many others he had made disappear forever. So, you have no regrets about ordering my death. All right, you don't know me. But what if it had been reversed, and it was someone you cared about? He pointed to Apollo's hands, bandaged with care by his sister. What if someone had Claire killed because it helped his pursuit of power in some way? Wouldn't you consider that evil? Apollo's face became stony. Naturally. So how can you say that there's no objective good and evil if it applies the same all the time? Because I don't have to. What? Apollo inflated his chest and sat up straighter. Reality is mine to lay claim to, and mold like clay. With each milestone I achieve, I gain a firmer grasp upon it. Right now, I am limited to a mere gang of rockets, and certain immunities guaranteed to me by the Johto League. One day, however, I'll be free of all restraints. People, Pokemon, gravity, time. I shall depend on no one, and all shall surrender to my will. As the rocket commander spoke, there was a kindling gleam in his eye that progressively brightened. Gold listened with horror and revulsion to the lunacy of the restrained cripple before him, who, in his own mind, would extend his reach to the stars above. This godless man was, in fact, the sun god himself, but he would not be satisfied as a mere star. He would make reality his own if he could, and what a milestone that would be. Truth, love, deceit, callousness, all would lose meaning, denounced as the people were united under the shadow of a capricious man's whims. It would never happen, but Apollo wouldn't be deterred to hear that. Left to his devices, he would devastate the world. There were only two possible choices that remained: surrender now or prepare to fight.